Get started with the double crochet, you're going to want to form a slip knot. What I do is make a cross and then feed my yarn up through the loop and pull. Then I'll insert my hook, snug down that loop, and I'm going to start with a chain of 14. I'll just yarn over and pull through until I hit 14. I'll meet you back when this chain is done. Now that we have our chain completed, I want to show you a little bit about stitch anatomy. We want to work our first stitch into the fourth chain from the hook. The loop on our hook right here does not count. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you count these stitches by looking for the V's. Now, as far as where to insert our hook, there are a few components to this stitch. There's the V itself, and then there's this leg that goes into it. I prefer to work my stitch under both the leg that goes into it and the top loop of the V. Some patterns and some creators prefer to work into the back bumps. So let's take a look at that. On the back side, again, our hook is in here. We have these bumps. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also choose to work into the back bump. Either way is correct, but I wanted to show you where both of those are located. Okay, let's do our first double crochet. To do our first double crochet, I'm going to again count back to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to yarn over and insert my hook again where I said under this leg here and the top loop. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now this chain 3 counts as our starting chain. Right now this counts as having 2 double crochets in our project. Let's do that one more time. We're going to go into this stitch. Again, I'm going to work under this branch of the stitch as well as the top one. So yarn over, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going to continue to the end of the row and then I'll show you how we work our second row. I've reached the end of the row, and now what we want to do is go ahead and chain 3. I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3, and turn our work so that we're looking at the back side of the project. Now, we want to identify where we're going to go into. This chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. We're going to skip this first stitch right here. We're going to work our next double crochet. The chain 3 counts as the first one. So we're going to work our next one under both loops of this stitch here. When you're looking at it facing you, you skip this one, work into this one. When you're looking at the top, skip the first one and go into the second. We'll work it as before, yarn over, insert under both loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And once we've turned, we can go ahead and work across the same way. Again, working under both loops, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now, when we get to where we started, we do have to be careful what stitch we go into. I'll meet you back at the end. Now we're back at the end and we have 2 stitches left to crochet into. One is this double crochet at the top that you can see here, this section right here. And the next is going to be the top of our chain 3. We can kind of see that here. 1, 2, and then right in here is the top of our chain 3. We want to make sure not to skip this spot or our project will start to shrink. I'm going to go ahead and work our last 2. 1, And then right into the top, again, working under this top leg and the middle section. Yarn over, insert under that, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two, and then yarn over, pull through two. That's how we're looking after 2 rows, and you could continue to work it back and forth until the project is the length and width that you desire. Next, I'll show you how to change colors with double crochet. To change color, you'll go ahead and begin working the last stitch with your current color, and you'll stop once you have 2 loops on your hook. Then you'll let that yarn drop, pick up your second color, have the tail go behind your project, hold your new color, yarn over, and pull through with the new color. Now you can use the tail of this color to tighten things down. If you're completely done with this color for now, you can trim the end and just leave a long enough tail to weave in, or some projects may call for you to carry it up the side, in which case you would leave it attached. To start working with your second color, you're going to go ahead and chain 3, turn your work, and continue on as we have before, working your double crochet. The edges on your double crochet project should stay fairly straight. However, if you notice that your project is either going in or getting wider, that's probably because you're adding a stitch or dropping a stitch. It's most common to drop a stitch when you're not working into the top of the chain 3, and it's most common to add a stitch when you chain up 3 and go back into this first stitch instead of skipping it and going into the second. One of the things that you can do to help prevent this is to use stitch markers. For example, we know we need to work into the top of this chain 3, so we can add a stitch marker here to remind us that's the stitch we need to go into as our last stitch. Likewise, when we chain 3, just remembering to skip this first stitch. We'll chain 3, work our double crochet into this stitch. We'll put a stitch marker into the top of that chain 3, so we know when we come back around to work into the top of that chain 3 and not skip it. To end your project, you'll work your last double crochet, and then you'll make sure to leave a long enough tail to weave in and cut your yarn. Now to secure that end, you'll need to yarn over and pull through and tighten that down. Now before we get started on the edging, we will need to weave in both ends, and that's coming up next. To weave in your ends, you'll need a yarn needle and a needle threader. Go ahead and stick the needle threader through the eye of your yarn needle, and then thread your needle. And now we're going to use this needle to weave this tail into the ends in our project. For a double crochet, I like to look at the way that the stitch is defined, and we have these bars here that we can weave into, as well as these at the bottom. So those are the 2 different areas in a double crochet stitch that I like to weave in. Now, this yarn can be a little bit harder to split, but when possible, you can see there I've split the yarn. So now when I thread through, my yarn will be going in between the plies of the yarn. And that will just help secure it more. And then I can continue working. Sometimes I'll just put it through the hole, and sometimes I'll try to thread it in between the plies. And you'll want to work back and forth. Now I've come across this way. I'll go under here Work it in here. And then I'll go over this one and back under. The whole idea is just to kind of work it back and forth to secure it. And the more that you weave it in, the less likely it is to come undone when you wash it or anything like that. That does make things a little bit thicker at the end that you're weaving it in, but it shouldn't be noticeable across a larger project. And then to finish up, what I'll do is I'll go back in and just make sure that I split the plies on the very last one. You can kind of see there how I'm splitting the plies. Pull that through, and then I'll use my scissors to just trim that off as close as possible. And there we've done the ends. I'll go ahead and do that for this end as well.